Okay, good morning. We're up to Siman Reish Vav Halacha Hey, Sif Hey. So, Ein Mevarchin says in the Mechaber, Loi al Eichel v'loi al Mashka at sheviuhu lefonov. You can't make a bracha until the food or the drink is right in front of you. Beirach v'achkach heviu lefonov. If you made a bracha and then afterwards the food is brought to you, then it's not good. Tzorech lefonov pamacheres. You got to make a new bracha. But if someone makes a bracha on fruit which was in front of him, and then they bring you more of that fruit, or of a different type of fruit, which is the same bracha as the first fruit, so you're sitting there, you make a bracha on an apple, and then they bring another apple from the kitchen, another apple. You don't need to make a new bracha on those apples because it's me'os hamin of the first bracha. Says the Ramah, it's ideal, it's preferred to make a bracha on whatever is going to be brought to you. Okay, so says the Mechaber, you're not allowed to make a bracha, you should really only make a bracha on something which is in front of you. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Yutes, you can be sitting in the dining room and you're thinking, I'm going to go inside soon and take an apple and I'll make a bracha here and you shouldn't do that. A person should only make a bracha on something which is directly in front of them. Because if your mind is on it, that's not good enough. If it's not in front of you, because there's nothing for the bracha to be chal, to be actually to descend upon. And that's not the same as the case of the amas hamayim in sivov. There we're talking about, if it's towards the end of the next sif, we'll do that tomorrow, Hashem, where it says that ha'omeid al amas hamayim mevarech v'sheiseh. You've got like a sort of a river or something, and it's dried up, and there is going to be water coming through. But the emes hamayim, the channel of water, which is the water's not there yet, but you make a bracha shahakon on that, and then a little later the water comes through, then you can make a bracha on that. Why? Because, says the Mishnah Berurah, the water is definitely going to come. So even though the water is not there right then when you're going to make the bracha, because it's inevitable it's going to come soon, that works. You don't know if other food is going to be brought to you by other people, and therefore it won't help you. So it's not quite like I was saying before. In other words, if you know there was like an apple in the fridge or in the fruit bowl in the kitchen table, and you make a bracha in the dining room, and you know it's there, then ein tzorech lachzav levarich. In other words, if you're just sitting at the dining room table and you make a bracha, hoping that someone's going to bring you a fruit or something, that's not going to help. You've got to have it there in front of you. If you make a bracha, you're in the dining room and you've got some fruit in the kitchen, then b'di'evet that helps you. But at the end of the day, really what should happen is it should be in your hand, ready to go. In the situation where you know for sure it's going to be brought to you, then you don't need to make a new bracha. But you should try and avoid it. One, there's a problem of a hefsek. And second of all, ideally you should be holding on to the item. So for example, let's say, I asked my daughter to make me a cup of coffee, and I'm sitting in the dining room, and I hear her the kettle's boiling, and I decide to start making my bracha already. So if I make my bracha shahakol in the knowledge and the anticipation that she's going to bring in my coffee very soon, but that works. But says the Mishnah Berurah, for two reasons it's not a clever idea to do. Number one, there's a hefsek, and number two, ideally I should be oiches the item which I'm about to make a bracha on. Okay, chof. So this is going on the Mechaber, which says, but someone who made a bracha on fruit which was in front of him, and then they bring him more fruit, then the second, I don't need to make a new bracha. It's covered by the first bracha. Hainu. Even if I've already consumed the first lot. the Ramah says that Toiv Lizoy Lechatchila Lios Daita Masher Yoviuloi. It's mashma from the Ramah. The besamach mashma the mechav ma'iri afilu b'sheloh yadaita behedjal kol mashaviu. Even if you haven't got explicit knowledge or das intention on what they're going to bring you. Rak sheberach al peres elu shoylefonu b'stama. I just make a bracha on the fruit in front of me. V'omrinan dezeh haviki'ilu isni beferish. As if I've stipulated beferish expressly she'em yoviu lo oid sheyochel gamehen, that if they bring me more, I will eat of them. Mishum shekein derech adam lichnois ma'achile ketana legadola. That's just the way a person eats. You sort of, you have one and then you have another one. You remember there used to be the adverts for the chocolate bar. One bite leads to another, right? So that's the way of eating. Achile ketana legadola. You sort of you eat more. Unless, of course, you just thought, I'm only going to eat these fruit and no more. Or when I finished that apple or that piece of food or whatever it was, I decide I'm not going to have any more, and then I change my mind to continue eating. In that situation, either I have only intention to eat what's in front of me, or I decide that's it now, I'm not going to have any more, and then I change my mind. In both of those situations, when you eat a second time, you will need to make a new bracha. Okay, so the Mechaber said that you should only make a bracha on that which is in front of you. If you make a bracha on fruit, and then more fruit is brought, then so long as it's the same min, the first bracha still stands, you don't need to make a new bracha. Right? So I'm sitting eating breakfast soon, and I have some shredders, and I make a mazonos on that. And then, they bring in another bowl of shredders for me. So I don't need to make a new bracha because it's the same min, and that works. So it says the Mishnah Berurah Sif Kotan Chaf Aleph, Mimin Acher, Ubilvad Sheyeh Mimin Peiros. It's got to be the same type of fruit. If I make a shahakal on fish, and then they bring me some beer, which is the same bracha, but shehu min acher legamre, but it's a totally different type of food. One is beer, one is fish. Af sheberach same shavas, even though they both happen to have the same bracha, they're both shahakal. Mikol makom einon niftar beberachasa bestama. So if I'm sitting there and they bring me a plate of fish and I make a shahakal on my fish, and I didn't know what else they're bringing in, and all of a sudden they bring me a cold beer, so I need to make a new bracha because that's totally a separate min. Unless I knew for sure they're going to bring me other shahakals and they're going to bring me from this. Or the second item was on the table in front of me. Fine. Chof Beis, this is going on, the Mechaber still. Unless it was Mimin Acher Shebichosa Birchos Orishon. Kama Achroinim Cholkim Bedin Zeh, was Svir Lehu, the Dafka Ba'isa Min Mamish. Who the paita brachasa bestama. It's got to be exactly the same min. After oisim perish avula achakach. Aval min acher, but if it's a different type of food, loy mahani brachasa bestama betzarich levarich. The bracha on the first item is not going to help me on the second item of food if it's a different min. If, however, they bring the second min, the second type of food, and I'm still eating the first one, that could be different. Because I was still actively involved in eating the first min, and therefore if they bring the second min, then I don't need to make a new bracha. They say furthermore, if a person is koveh, sits down, I'm going to have some fruit now. Even though he just makes a bracha on those fruit that are in front of him, and then they bring another type of fruit, which because the first one ran out, they say that you don't need to make a new bracha. So I'm eating apples, and I finish it, and then they bring pears. There are some who say that I don't need to make a new bracha. Since I decide to sit down and to eat fruit, it's all covered by the ber parade. So they bring this fruit or that fruit, then it's all covered. Okay, but the remark concludes and says, it's just good practice to have in mind that this bracha is going to cover whatever they're going to bring for me. It says in Mishnah Berurah, the bistama loy mahani. then in the situation of stam, when I didn't specifically have in mind to include fruit which is going to be brought later, loy mahani, that won't help. B'chol gavni elim kein hoy lefonav b'shas bracha, unless it was literally in front of me. But without that, then I need to have in mind exactly what they're going to bring to me. Okay, say that. So really, the upshot of this is that when you make a bracha, it should really be there in front of you. A, that there's no hefsek, and B, that I'm holding on to it. However, if I'm a guest at somebody else's home and they say they're bringing in some fruit, and I think maybe they're going to bring some other fruits, the best thing to do, says the Ramah, is to have in mind that this bracha I'm making now on the fruit in front of me will cover any other of the same, the fruit that is going to come later on. Okay, so I think we should leave that there. It's a shame to rush, Vov.
Completely.